Hello, Mind Bloomers. This is Mind Bloom, the safe space at the intersection of mental health advocacy and breast cancer awareness. Mind Bloom is your podcast. Subscribe to hear more on female entrepreneurship and the juggling of family life, career goals, and romantic relationships. Not an easy task, especially if your physical and mental health need a big hug right now. Hello, Mind Bloomers. This is Marina Gee, your host, and welcome to Mind Bloom, the podcast for all things mental health and breast cancer awareness. Before we dive into this week's episode, let me just say that Mind Bloom, the podcast, and the content at Mind Bloom U across all platforms is not intended to be a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. You should always contact your providers for medical counsel. Never disregard any medical treatment or delay seeking professional help because of any content authored or distributed by Mind Bloom. Hi, hello everyone. Another Tuesday, here we are again. It's so good to be with you, so good to sense your company on the other side of the line. So good to be able to speak with you through your earpods or Bluetooth headphones or your Alexa or any other smart speaker that you may have. You get my point, right? It's good to be here and it's good to know you're on the other side. Let's start as always with some updates. Still in that limbo of so close to 1,000 followers on Instagram. Guys, please go on Instagram and hit that button. It's like chasing the pot of gold beyond the rainbow. Please go and subscribe. I want to see how it feels to hit 1,000 followers on Instagram. I also want to thank you for all the subscriptions on YouTube and all the follows on Twitter, all the reviews on the Apple Podcasts. Let's see, what else? All the follows and saves, I guess that's the metric with Pinterest. So on Pinterest. So thank you so much. I feel Mind Bloom is just everywhere and anywhere and just accessible to so many people in so many countries. I see on the list of countries where Mind Bloom is listened to, I see Turkey, I see Morocco, I see Thailand, I see Egypt. Oh my gosh, it's unbelievable. So thank you all, wherever you are. In terms of listens, I've hit and surpassed 800 listens this week. And that means not necessarily that I have 800 people subscribe to Mind Bloom, the podcast, but it means that 800 plus is the total number that all the episodes have been listened to. So someone on Twitter the other day put it this way. Imagine you're having a party with all the people that took the time to listen to your episodes. That would be a heck of a huge party, wouldn't it? I mean, 800 people, that would be hard to fit in this room. And my dog, I promise you, she would not like this one little bit. And then I replied to this kind tweet with a GIF of the film The Great Gatsby. Basically, a party of 800 people is a Great Gatsby party. Wouldn't you agree? So that's the kind of party I am giving myself permission to celebrate. Every little step is a celebration at this point in my life and just the way the world has been shaped lately. Any little and every tiny little change and move forward and step forward and just looking ahead is a motive for a celebration. I hope you're with me on this one. Speaking of celebration, and if you're still dabbling with Pinterest, as I am, I have, if you've been listening, I have 2-3 weeks of experience with Pinterest. But the other day I posted, and what I do is I just resize and adjust the posts from Instagram. I just resize them into a 2:3 ratio for Pinterest and just plop them there and don't give it another thought. So I repurposed and resized a post I had with a yellow background and a Polaroid camera and the little pictures of summer, and I was saying Polaroid the shit out of your day because you don't know if you'll have a tomorrow, something like that. So I put it on Pinterest. Took me 5 minutes. I had, I kid you not, 34K views of that post or that pin. We know it doesn't mean much, but it still granted me some 4, I believe it was, link clicks. So people who went on the Mindbloom website, and another 4 or 5 saves. So, I mean, I'm overall very happy. 34,000 people saw that post of mine. It's unbelievable. Which just means that, guys, I think that's how you do it. Just repurpose whatever you have, make it flashy and yellow or bright green, bright something, pink, yellow, I would imagine. That's also my color palette anyway. And just put it out there and see what happens. Yeah, and some of the pins I have there have had 34 views. Period. And then this one had, kid you not, 34,000 views. So you really never know what's going to happen and how your pins are going to fare, but just do it. And yeah, if you are looking to get traffic into your website, your sales, your coaching, yeah, please do it. I mean, you really don't have anything to lose. Now, not such good news was that I was not selected for that Google Podcast Creator Training grant that I had applied for a few weeks ago. I was excited about it. It was a 12-week training, and they said, with the best of the best, we're going to teach you how to edit and how to, I don't know, because I never got to see the syllabus, but I was excited to hear from them, and I really wanted to have one, I guess. But I didn't. I found out on Friday, and I took the day to just be with the funks and just not be happy. I was also not devastated or anything. It was just like, I'm gonna take a nap today, I feel. It's a stay in bed kind of day. I reached out for help, which is something I wouldn't have done in the past. I would have hidden it. There's shame, there's perfectionism, there's expectations that I feel I didn't meet, not just for myself, but let's say your expectations, who knows. And with all of that, I, in the past, would have just kept silent. And this time around, no, I didn't. I posted it on Twitter and I specifically said, guys, I got some bad news. I didn't get selected to be on this training by Google, and send some love. Send me some good words because I need those now. And I did the same on Instagram. I had to create a nice post because Instagram is not like Twitter where you just blurb something out. No, on Instagram, you gotta make it pretty. So I made it as pretty as I could that day. And again, I was asking for help. I said, look, if you can, send some love over because I got some bad news. And the reception was great to both the Twitter and the Instagram post. My lovely community on Instagram immediately came to my rescue and said all the nice things that I know are true. They wouldn't just say it because they're nice. I knew, or because they're nice people. But at the same time, they are nice people that they are taking the time to write a few words for me to make me feel better, expecting nothing in return. And that's just incredible and a gift and a blessing. And Twitter has been revealing itself to be an amazing platform. Look, someone from Branched Podcast replied to this cry for help that I put on Twitter. They say, they're missing out on one of the best podcasts I've listened to in a long while. And someone so dedicated to the podcast community. They don't know what they're missing. So this is just a fellow podcaster who took the time. They could have stayed silent and they took the time to make me feel better. And wow, does it. And the same thing can be said of Instagram. Look at people commented, I am so sorry to hear this. It wasn't the right time and it's their loss. Someone else wrote, lovely. I'm sorry to hear. One of my favorite sayings is the Japanese proverb, fall down 7 times, get up 8, with the added proviso of hiding under the covers in between said falling and getting back up. Sending you love. This is beautiful. Someone else said, you are loved. And then here's another one. Hey buddy, that's rough. The thing is, you learn things best by doing them. So every episode you record and put out, plan and execute will teach you more than any course you will ever do. So keep your chin up, rest and be kind to yourself and get right back at it when you're ready to. How lovely, right? I can't say I've had this kind of support ever, I think, in my life. There's always family members who will have prompt responses and prompt words of encouragement and of support. But I want to say in general, it's new. This is all very new to me. And it's funny because I think it's never happened before, not because people are nicer today or people are nicer in this country versus other countries. It's not that. It's I am asking and I am open and available. And I am saying, guys, come on, today I need some love and comfort. Please send some over. Because all the other days I am doing just that, comforting others and being there for others. It's good to recognize that it's a two-way road and we give and receive, and it's refreshing to know how to receive as well. I think that part was lacking in my life. Now, speaking about receiving, I have also received beautiful reviews this week. I want to read you just 2. One is from my good friends and fellow podcasters from the See What Sticks podcast in Canada. And they say, what a personality. Marina is a joy to listen to and is really passionate about her topics of discussion. Highly recommend. Now, the Flappity Flap podcast says, Marina has an amazing energy. She clearly practices excellent self-care and is very mindful and centered. I love this. This is so not true sometimes. I felt so much peace as the episode went on, and she's mentioning the disappearing of me. She can clearly teach us a lot about taking care of ourselves and listening to our needs. Certainly a much needed podcast and message, especially in this time of COVID and political and social tension and unrest. Wow. Wow, thank you so much. And I got a few other reviews and ratings, but I will save some for next week. I think the last time I read any reviews, I had 18, 19 ratings or reviews, and today I have 35, so it's great as well. Again, that people are taking the time to consider me and Mind Bloom and give me some love and kudos and encouragement. And I try to be as humble as possible. I don't just sit on these laurels, let's call them that. I go and immediately try to find this person and try to thank them by doing the same thing. All these reactions make me think that I am probably doing something right by producing and hosting this podcast. And this is particularly important in a week such as this past week. Another thing that happened was that I had a little quid pro quo with my dad because of what? Because of just miscommunication, which is probably 99% the reason why people disagree on things. But anyway, so he was asking me, what are you doing this afternoon? And I said, well, the usual. I am going to be working on Mind Bloom and just trying to yield some results. I said this in Portuguese. So I use the verb render, and that means to yield profit. It means to bring in something, to bring in value, which I was using metaphorically because Mind Bloom does not yield a return yet, but I was still using it in the sense that I am being as dedicated to my project as I would something I get an income from, and that I expect very seriously that in the future, yes, I will be yielding some return from Mind Bloom. So I used the verb, it's just this one word, and he immediately responded with, what are you talking about, bringing in something? What do you mean yielding? There's nothing to yield. And I just turned white, or maybe I turned red with anger. I got angry. I got mad. Yes. I didn't say anything because I've learned to stay quiet many, many years ago. But I felt that my boundaries had been crossed, and I felt disrespected in terms of my goals, my seriousness towards work and towards any project I put my hands on. And I also had a little flashback to the past where my endeavors are not taken, at least from my perspective, are not taken seriously. I never shared this here, but I have a doctorate degree. But I had to hear many, 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 many times in my past, why don't I get a real job? What is this going to yield to my life? So yeah, it's a trigger factor for me to be called out on a project that is like Mind Bloom or the pursuing of a PhD, a project that is creative and hard, very hard, And that entails so much perseverance, so much sacrifice. There's so many things I don't do because I have to record, or I have an interview, or I am going on someone else's podcast, or I have to do this post. And anyone who does a podcast these days, there's many of us, luckily, but any of them will tell you this is a 24/7 job. And knowing myself, I know I will try my best, and I will die trying to catapult Mindbloom into, I don't want to say profitable, but just, a professional setting, let's say, something I can do and live off of. But for some reason, there's always this idea that you can only measure success by its financial value. And also, you should better be quiet and don't come across as confident, because that translates into arrogance instead. Who am I to imagine that Mindbloom will take off at some point? That's crazy, right? And my mindset is a little bit different than that now, especially. It may have been that same mindset, which is a mindset of lack, a mindset of want, a mindset where there's never enough, where you should put your bank account in the altar and sacrifice everything else, your love for creativity, your love for writing and for speaking with others and helping others. That's minimal compared with your annual income. So I'm sure many of you are at this moment nodding to what I'm saying, because so many of us just want to break those ties with our 9-to-5s, or with our 2-hour commutes, or with our debt. And we just want to be truthful to our values. And that does not mean we're all gonna go Fight Club here, and we're all gonna start burning our credit cards, and we're all going to go live in the woods. It's not like that, of course. I think our work as content creators needs to be reevaluated. It needs to be valued for what it is, not for its ROI. And it's high time that creativity and sustainability and generosity become the currency. So I'm telling you this story because the update I want to give you is not this story in particular, because this is not an update in my life. This has just been the normalcy. The update, though, is that this time around I chose to communicate. I chose to open the channels of communication. Not immediately. I needed maybe a day, yes, I believe a day or two, to process what was going on. And then I reinitiated this conversation with my dad. And I started by asking, so are you worried? Is there anything that worries you about this situation? It is true. I do not have a job at this moment. It is true. I am living off the severance package I got from my former employer. And it is also true my immigration status in the US is very up in the air, to say the very least. And it is also true that I have 6 months medical follow-ups. So yes, it's complicated right now. But Mindbloom is saving my life, not destroying it. It's not a hobby, and it's not a waste of time, and it's not a waste of resources. It costs close to zero to have a podcast or interview people literally zero, because Zoom is free. So I went through all these points with my dad, one by one, the situation in my bank account and how many months I think I can survive in this country, doing nothing really, because in terms of my immigration status, it's actually illegal for me to work right now. And then also, I am just coming out of a scenario where I was burnt out. Like, raise your hands if you were as well. And raise your hands if you're almost happy, relieved, and thankful that you lost your job because it was killing you. Mine was. And it was a blow. I was not expecting a phone call saying, that's it, you're terminated. Not at all. It was a blow, and I cried, and I didn't know what to do. But a few months in this new normalcy, this new life of mine, I think that this happened. I think that I was terminated. I thank my severance package, and I could just stay in bed and watch Netflix all day. And instead, what do? I choose to talk about mental health and breast cancer. So, come on, give me some credit here. You know, we're talking about someone who's known me for my whole life, and never, ever, ever, ever have I failed them or failed to be the best in my class or to be the brightest and the most quiet when all I really needed was to scream and yell. But yeah, at the end of the day, people, give me some credit here. I'm trying, as we all are, to adjust. I'm trying to find my new purpose in life, and I think I have found it, which is, again, a blessing. How many people can say this of their lives, especially in this period of history? I have a phrase that I jotted down in my journal maybe a month or two ago, because I saw it somewhere, and I mean, it's just a very obvious English sentence, nothing that special. It all it says is "don't go back," but it's these three magic words that I've decided to post on my workspace. Don't go back. Don't go back to a 9-to-5. Don't go back to living in debt. Don't go back to being scared of your boss or if you're going to lose your job. Don't go back to commuting for an hour and a half each way every day. Don't go back to working 6 days a week because you need to pay for your apartment in New York. Rather stay. I tell this myself so many times in one day. You deserve to stay. You are worthy of staying and building roots and blooming in my own terms, as I please and as I see fit. So here I ramble again, but you get the point I was trying to make. The whole point is that this time around I communicated. We had a very nice chat, almost emotional, and I explained, as always, I need to do always a little bit too much of explaining, too much of detailing and oversharing. I still need to work on that, but I went over all the little bullet points that were a concern for my dad. And I explained everything to him, and he said that he got it. He got it now. The outcome was very positive. We had another chat today, and it was just very nice and breezy. And when he asked me, "What are you going to do this afternoon?" I almost didn't have to respond. He read in my eyes and in my posture that I was ready to go. In fact, I was a little bit late with my post for today, so on Instagram. So no questions asked. He didn't need to ask, "What do you mean you're going to work on your podcast? Why exactly? What kind of a hobby is that takes 10 hours a day?" So yay to me. I'm very proud, very happy, because I came to terms with the realization that it's not what the other person says to me, it's the lack of communication, a little bit of inflexibility as well. But people really sometimes are just not on the same page for many, many reasons. And maybe this was the case. And before I would react to it and take it personally, and also it just triggers all the things from the past. So here I was again in these muddy waters of confusion and self-doubt. Instead, I tackled it. It was hard, but I tackled it, and the outcome was positive and bright. So yay to me. Have you ever encountered these moments? Do you want to tell me about them? Please reach out. You know where to find me on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and Pinterest at mindbloomu. My website is mindbloomu.com. What else do I have? YouTube. Look up Mindbloom and the podcast. Anywhere you find your podcasts and wherever you stream them, there you will find Mindbloom. Don't forget to hit subscribe. Hit subscribe so that you can have access to a new episode every Tuesday. And if you like what you hear, if you like what you listen, if you like these little updates as well as the interviews with my amazing guests, then please leave a review in the Apple Podcasts app. My guest this week is Elena Joy Thurston again. If you don't remember, our conversation was so amazing and so in depth that I decided to break down her interview into 2 parts. So this is part 2 of my interview with Elena Joy Thurston, the founder of Pride and Joy Foundation. If you haven't yet, please go check out episode 12, where you can find the first part of this 2-part interview. All right, I hope you like this bit as much as I did. Don't go anywhere. I will be right back after this break. Guys, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Turns out it's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. It will also distribute your podcast for you so that everyone can listen to it on Spotify and Apple Podcast and many, many more. And guess what? You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So go download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started.
You're a survivor. And I had never heard that term before.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, I guess I am. And she said, well, you better take care of yourself because you're only a survivor until you're a statistic. And that kind of hit me hard. And it was, some people would say that was a bit much. But for me, I needed to hear that. I need to make my mental health a priority every single day, because it's kind of like those tracks have been greased, right? Like I got to a really bad emotional place, and where my brain went to was suicide. And so it's very easy for me, if I get back in that place, to go on that path again. And so I take every single day, it's a non-negotiable. My mental health has to come first, which was never that way before, right? Like when you're just a mom of 4 kids and a busy wife, like you come last. Like you might get to watch a TV show after all the kids are in bed, and that's it, right? And now it's not that way. My kids know, no, I meditate every morning. You don't get to interrupt me.
Okay.
And it will happen before I feed you breakfast. Sorry.
You won't die of starvation.
No, you won't. You can meditate with me if you want.
You are indeed a survivor and a warrior, and your story is just incredible. And I mean, so much strength that comes out of every pore. And did you ever seek therapy again? As in the good,
right? Real therapy? Yes, I immediately, because I had become suicidal. And so, like I said, I had gotten real help very quickly. I was so blessed and privileged, honestly. And they helped me understand, conversion therapy is bad. They were like,
they didn't know?
I had no idea.
No, they
knew.
Oh, they know.
So it's not illegal in my state. It's up to different states to enact their own law. And in about 20 states, it is banned. And there's quite a few other states where they've been able to ban it in the capital city limits. They haven't been able to make it the statewide yet. But typically, once you can get it done in the capital, it's a lot easier to get it done for the whole state. So, but yeah, here in my state, we've tried to get it banned and the voters won't approve it. And I kind of get it. I get the line of thinking, because they feel like I am the parent of my child. No one can tell me, especially the government, what's good for my child, right? Like I get that. I have 4 kids. I totally get that. On the other hand, we enact laws because we value our children's lives. And so if a parent isn't going to protect their child, we have laws to protect them for them, right? That's child seatbelt laws. That's child labor laws, child porn laws, right? If you as a parent are not going to protect your kid, we're going to enact a law to kind of force you to. And here in Arizona, they don't like that. They really feel like it's their freedom. It's their right to be able to send their kid to conversion therapy if they want to.
Well, they're probably the mask slackers as well.
Possibly. Yes.
Because the government can't impose their will on my will.
Right.
You have a nonprofit as well.
I do. Right.
Tell me.
So I came out, at age 38, I finally came out, and then I had to come out to my kids. And that was a whole experience in and of itself, because here I'd spent their entire lives teaching them that who I was wrong. That anyone who gave in to homosexuality was just not a strong enough person to withstand the temptation. That's how I taught it to them. And so we tried to find other families that looked like us to kind of normalize it, so that my kids didn't feel so weird and so different that they had a gay mom. And it was really hard to find other families like us. I literally had to go kind of nationwide. There weren't hardly any here in our area. And so I started to kind of gather these families up. And then I realized I had all these straight, often religious friends whose kids were coming out to them, because we're now of the age where we have teenagers, and their kids were coming out to them. And they were looking at me saying, I don't know how to respond. I don't want to damage our relationship. I never thought this would happen to me, right? So I was kind of gathering in those friends as well, and then realizing y'all need to know each other, right? Like if we have a gay dad out there, like that mom whose 16-year-old son has just come out to her and she's like, oh my gosh, how do I have the sex talk with my gay son? Well, when you have a gay man in your life that you can ask those questions to, who's also a parent, it makes it a lot easier, right?
Yeah.
So we have a lot of that kind of back and forth support happening, as well as we have allies, straight people who are wanting to raise allies. They're wanting to raise their kids to be allies, and they weren't raised that way. Oftentimes they were raised in high demand religions. And so they have to deprogram themselves so that they can teach their kids to be allies. And so we also invite them to be a part of the group as well, so that they can glean and help and support and get information. So yeah.
Yeah. What's the name of your nonprofit?
Oh, sorry. It's the Pride and Joy Foundation.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And we offer classes. So really the entire goal of it is to help make LGBTQ families safer. I really feel like I got to a point that I was almost no longer here. And the suicide rate for young adults and teenagers that are trying to come out is incredibly high. And it doesn't take a lot to reduce that rate. If a queer child or young adult or child has one adult in their life that they feel like they can totally be themselves with, their risk of suicide goes down by 40%.
Yeah, that's that.
So I was like, man, if all I can do is just create more allies in the world, then we're literally going to save lives. Yeah. How can you not do that, right?
Yeah.
So we have classes and we have the support group and we have meditations. We have all kinds of, we have merchandise.
Who doesn't love?
I doesn't love a good t-shirt.
Right? I want a mug. Do you have a mug?
I have a mug. Because now I get to drink tea and coffee. Before, when I was in the religion, I couldn't drink tea and coffee. So this is like really exciting for me.
That is, from everything you've said today, that is the worst part I've heard, that you couldn't. I'm kidding. Obviously. Obviously. Everything else I'll take.
Right?
I draw my line at coffee.
No. Yeah.
No, we're joking, but the numbers are staggering, and it's just so you were saying in the US, so 30 states, I guess, still allow it if Correct. 20 have banned it. So that's Correct. Still a huge number. And the last time we spoke, I was very fast at getting out my European flag and going, oh, we don't have that back home. we're perfect. I mean, look at us.
Look at us.
With our cappuccinos and our... No. Awesome style and just progressive thinking. Mm-hmm. And you interrupted me, and very well so, said, no, it's only banned in 3 countries. So, oh my God, I take, of course, all of that back and apologize to you for my ignorance. I had no idea, to be honest. I've never encountered a story, like a real tale of, but I only needed, though, mind you, to Google it, and I did it today, in Portuguese. That's my country of origin, Portugal. It's to Google in Portuguese, conversion therapy, to have a slew of things. Luckily, though, they weren't they were protests and bills. So I was reading that in May, Parliament submitted a bill to ban it. Mm-hmm. So at least what I read is not, we're totally for, in our defense, if there's any, but I mean, I can't even fathom that. Oh. And I was also reading that Germany what was it? The bill passed in May, I believe, and all but Albania is the country where that has been definitely banned. Do you know what the other 2 countries are?
I thought it was Norway.
Okay.
I thought Norway was actually kind of leading the charge. And now I can't remember what the other one was. I had originally thought it was England, but then I was actually contacted by a group of students who had seen the TED Talk, and they actually wrote a play. They're theater students, and they wrote like a short play based on the TED Talk, which was crazy. And they said that's what they wanted to do because it was not banned in England, and they wanted it to be. And that's the amazing thing about this next generation. Like, yeah, we have all these adults that think they can tell their kids what to do, but this next generation, man, they look at sexuality and gender and in a totally different way, like in a really different way. So it'll be really interesting to see how that goes. But I also really feel like, especially just like in your case, I think we almost don't even need the bans. If we just educate people, I really feel like if parents knew what kind of risk they were taking by sending their kids, that the practice would go away on its own. Because absolutely. I don't believe that parents would knowingly put their child at such a risk for suicide.
Yeah, exactly. I was really baffled to see that it's because I cannot imagine that it's something taught in a university. I really cannot see that happening. But I could be wrong. There are parents I know whose kids came out and it was a struggle. I'm not going to lie. It's these are all Catholic countries and very traditional. And, the family has got to be, a traditional family.
Right.
And it was a struggle for them, but I have never heard an account of, I'm just going to put my son in therapy because he's so I hope this is the truth, and I will inquire into that actually. And I know I have friends listening in that country, so maybe they will fact check for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a really interesting to debate, because there are freedoms there, and I get that. And if I had been told in the beginning, like, there's no success rate to this, it's literally never been proven to be successful, would I have invested $240 a day for 6 months for something that did not have a success rate, let alone the suicide rate, right? Like, if you just tell me whether it will work or not, and the fact that it probably won't, right? So maybe even that needs to be the laws. If these practitioners just disclose the success rate, maybe then people would stop paying for it.
Wow. Just the premise that, like you were saying, you are broken from the get-go, and just the premise that you can have the liberty to go into your life and your mind and change it.
Yeah.
Because what you're thinking, what you're desiring, what you believe in is wrong, cannot happen. I mean, that alone just blows my mind.
Yeah, that is the danger zone. That is the premise right there. Because I think if I had been met by myself and by my husband and by my bishop with, well, it's not wrong to be gay. So is that what you want? Right? Like, it would have been a totally different conversation if it wasn't clouded in so much shame. Yeah. It was just so shameful to even think of. And so the three of us didn't even go there. Oh no, she's not a lesbian. She just messed up.
Yeah, exactly. Have you ever thought if you had fallen in love with a man out of your marriage? Probably.
Yeah, I never say never anymore. I've learned
No. Oh, no. I'm not asking that. I'm saying the equation would have been completely different.
Yes.
Had you had, let's say, an affair with a man versus a woman.
Totally different.
Exactly. That's what I mean. You would not have been sent to therapy, to conversion therapy.
No, we would have done marriage therapy, and that would have been it.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Where what's at the root of you looking for someone else is really not a gender dysmorphia.
Right.
It's just that you were looking for love, which is part of the human condition. There was nothing wrong
I was
with
looking for something that I never even knew I didn't have. I had convinced myself that, I'm just someone who doesn't like to hold hands. I'm just someone who doesn't like to cuddle on the couch, and I guess I'm just someone who doesn't like sex. And I thought that was very common. I really did. Everyone in the community had gotten married at 20, 22. We were all virgins when we got married. And so I just kind of assumed none of us know what we're doing and sex sucks and maybe it'll be better in heaven. And then there was this moment, it was within 5 years. I was in my mid 30s and I was at a bakery with a friend standing in line for a cinnamon roll. And she was complaining about her husband at some point. And I responded with, well, it's not like wives enjoy sex anyway. And I laughed. And she kind of stopped and looked at me and was like, well, no, some of us do, Elena. And I was like, oh, shoot. I had just really convinced myself that no one did, that I was normal. I was normal, but obviously not.
I mean, in the beginning, you were saying all the ambient, I guess, going around. I'm sure they were all written with anxiety and sadness and depression as well.
Yeah. I mean, if you're part of a religion so the only way to get back to heaven is to go through the temple, which is not just like a Sunday service type building. It's like a special building. It's $1 million building. And they're not everywhere. Sometimes you have to travel days and days and days to get there. Okay. So it's considered, it takes a lot of sacrifice to get there. And then when you go there, you can do this ceremony and it brings you closer to God. And it's the ceremony that you need, all this knowledge you need to have to get into heaven after you die. That's literally the point of it. Okay, well, not everyone can go in the building. Not even every member of the religion. You have to be a member and you have to have this little card that is signed by your bishop that says you're worthy to enter the building. And you get interviewed every year to determine your worth. Are you worthy to enter that building? So I agree. I don't know how it's possible for anyone to be part of that religion and not to feel constantly judged and how can they not constantly judge themselves? And if you're judging yourself all the time, you're going to judge the people around you as well. Right?
Of course. Because that's your escape.
So yes, looking back, I realized, they probably really did struggle with some anxiety and depression because they were living a very judged life.
It's a little bit like the
Stepford Wives.
Stepford Wives, I was almost going to say Stepford Wives, or more recently, Little Big Lies. If you watch that show, where everything is perfect, so it's like social media. Everything is perfect and rosy, and everything is falling to pieces in the back.
Yes. And that's the biggest thing that I want to help prevent. Yeah. I want to find those women and I find them every week. They're in my DMs and my emails. These women who are like, I've been married for 10, 15, 20 years. I've got all these kids and I'm trapped and I'm writing this in the closet in the middle of the night, right? Because they just feel so trapped. And whether they stay there or not, I don't care. But I don't want them to feel trapped anymore. And self-awareness, I feel like, really brings that freedom to not be trapped wherever you are, in whatever relationship you're in, that you don't have to be there and you don't have to judge yourself for being there.
On that note, what would you say to the people at home, with kids and themselves and all that's going on?
Yeah. I would say, how there's people in your life, maybe it's like a coworker or a new sister-in-law or something, and you first meet them and you're like, ew, not impressed, right? But you're kind of forced to spend time together and you get to know each other a little bit and you start to get to know where they're from and how they were raised, and you kind of get context for their life. And you might not become best friends, but you can respect them. And if you spend enough time together, you probably end up loving them because you know a lot about them, right? And so my premise is that we can't love ourselves if we don't know ourselves. And if other people's judgments and if our own judgments are preventing us from knowing ourselves, then we can't love ourselves. And when we can't love ourselves, we can't fully love the people around us. We can't fully experience life. Like, that's being trapped. That's what trapped is. That's what the closet is, right? When other people's opinions and your opinions are keeping the door locked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So getting to know ourselves, removing that judgment means we get to love ourselves, which means we get incredible freedom no matter what kind of pandemic is happening.
I know. The four walls really are just imaginary, right? Because your mind expands and you can be anywhere and everywhere. And here we are. And I've been talking with people from Sydney and just England and just anywhere, and you and across the country. And there's no limits. It really is like that. Yeah. And what also is so empowering is that we are making it. We are making it happen. We are taking control of what we can control, which is limited, but at least that much we can do something about it. And
absolutely.
Right. And just look for better lives for ourselves, for our loved ones, and just raise kids in a joyous home, harmonious home. And I think, wow.
Yeah.
I could go on and on and on. This was beyond anything imaginary. This is so good to speak with you.
Thank you so much. This has been lovely. I really appreciate it. I love getting the European perspective because I have yet to speak to anyone from Europe about this. So that's awesome.
Please do, and get back to me.
It's really amazing that just came out this week is that Facebook and Twitter have decided to ban any conversion therapy accounts.
Oh, wow.
Which is incredibly helpful because that is the way people find them. You know, it used to be that, you know, before the internet, like if you came out and your parents didn't like it, okay, maybe you had to deal with your like local priest or pastor or whatever, but you would survive most likely because they probably weren't really trained in how to deal with that.
Nice.
But when you have the internet, you have these, all of a sudden they can reach you anywhere you are and they make it very, very accessible and they have all this information and they make it look legit, right? You can make a website look really legit. And if you're desperate, you're going to go down that rabbit hole so quickly. So the fact that Facebook and Twitter are starting to ban these accounts is incredible. So good. They don't often do good, but today they did.
Last night, they banned a tweet from Trump, so they did. They're getting there.
They're getting there.
Talking about allies, they are getting there.
Yep, it's true.
They realize the power also they have. So
yeah. So there is something I'd like to offer your audience.
Please.
I was just thinking about women who are transitioning, right? Like going from one place in life to a new place in life. And I give a keynote talk about Life 2.0, how to love your new normal. And it definitely applies to women who are going through cancer or some other life-altering thing, you know? And one of the basics that I teach in that class is about understanding your core values. Because oftentimes when we're going through an intense thing, our roles or our labels that we have on ourselves kind of get stripped away, right? When you're sick in the hospital, you can't be a mom, right? And when you take that label away, that takes away like my entire identity. And I start to really question who I am. And unfortunately, those are also moments where I have to make choices for my future, but I'm questioning who I am. So there's a good chance I'm going to make a choice that I'm really going to regret, right? And so I use the concept of core values, that it is a way to identify with yourself that has nothing to do with your labels or your roles. So those can change, but you have your core values and that's going to stick with you no matter what, so that you can have a really strong basis to make those decisions from. So anyway, so I would like to gift your audience a free class to learn about your core values.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Did you all hear that? Yay! freebie from Elena.
Absolutely. Freebies are great.
Yeah. So you'll give us a link to that. Yes. I will post it. I will also post it on social media the day you air. It's beautiful. This was beautiful. I wish you only the best. And
thank you.
You don't even need my wishes. You're just gonna go and get whatever it is that you want. And that
we're gonna get it done. That's what we're gonna do.
We're gonna get it done.
Yep.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Elena.
Thank you, Marina. Thanks for passing the mic. This was great.
And that was our episode for this week. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you were able to take away some useful tips and tools to use in your own life. Don't forget to subscribe to Mind Bloom the podcast anywhere you stream your podcasts. And please leave a message on the Anchor FM voicemail if you have any questions or comments for me. Also, please leave a review on the Apple Podcasts app. That would help the podcast reach more people. That would be great. Follow Mind Bloom on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at MindBloomU. And check out my website, mindbloomu.com. Don't forget, a new episode every Tuesday. I look forward to spending time with you again next week. Be well and stay blessed. Bye-bye.